Manny, thank you for coming today.
No, thank you for having me.
It's
I
good.
appreciate
It's good to see you. I was thinking when I was driving here that I met you before I met you. Because in lockdown, you remember when we were allowed our 1 day of, what was it, 1 hour of exercise a day, whatever it was. I decided I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to finally start running. And naturally, I downloaded the Nike Run app. I popped it on, pressed play on the guided run, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Coach Manny." And I thought, cool. And I did a run. Fast forward years after, I'm speaking at an event, so are you, and there you are. We meet in person. Do you ever think about the fact that a lot of people's running journey probably started with you whispering in their ear?
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I get a lot of messages. My sister actually sent me a message from somebody she knows, and they said, "Thank your brother for this run because it was amazing." And I love it. Yeah, it's great. I think it's brilliant. It's something that I will really, I'll be kind of proud about for a long time. And it's amazing to have an impact in people's lives because, you know, when you're there on your own and you're heading out for a run, it can be sometimes the most daunting, isolating experience. So for me to be there with people to support them, I'm excited. I think everybody has something they can do to impact the world, and I guess this is one of the things I do, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, for people who don't understand what we're saying, you're a Nike running coach, which means, how does it all work? You go into the studio, you record a sort of running guide for people as they walk. Like, I've always wondered, how do you do it? Is it a podcast sort of affair? How's it work?
Yeah, so it's an audio guided run. I'm a Nike running coach, a European Nike running coach, and what that means is that I support Nike to give everybody who would like to run and people who maybe don't run insight into what running can do for them. Running is a big part of my life. I run 2 marathons a year, which I enjoy, and
wow,
I use running as a structure and a peace of mind. As well as that, I'm a physiotherapist, so I support people who want to get into running, support them with their injuries, help prevent their injuries, and help with their overall experience of running. And the way it works is that I produce content via social channels, but also I produce content via an audio guided run. So an audio guided run is scripted, and we go and sit in a studio and we speak into a mic and something very similar to this, and then we put it out there into the world and you experience it. So it's cool. Very exciting.
Mate, I always used to go out for runs, like, naturally, and then a friend told me to try out the sort of audio guided thing, and it took a while to get used to it. Initially, it was like a bit weird because it was like it had the American guy on it. I think it's like the
Coach Bennett. Yeah, so he does a lot of the scripts as well. Yeah.
It's so wild. Like, that man has spoken to me so many times because obviously I'm always playing his thing, and he'd be like, who do you need to text after this? Who do you need to catch up with? And I'm there like, I want to call my mum.
I love that. Yeah.
So it's been really fascinating. It's I want to pick up on something you said. These marathons you do, right? Because one of the things I often get, I don't run that much, right? But one of the things I get from people who don't run at all is like, why would I run? Like, is running just for specific people? Are you that kid in school? Or were you that kid in school who was just like sort of super into long distance? You're just like a natural runner. And so, of course, you're going to be doing 2 marathons a year. Whereas other people are just thinking even running like 5K or 1K is wild to me. So how has that worked? Were you just always a runner, or is it something you've sort of developed and fallen in love with?
It's been an evolution. As a kid, I liked football, rugby. I preferred to do those sports.
So did you say rugby?
Yeah, football, rugby. I swam really, really well. I was like swimming almost for the county. So sport was a big thing for me, and it still is. Going to get back into the pool soon, so I'm looking forward to that. But I didn't like long distance. There was one training session, a football training session, that I actually decided I didn't want to run in that session because our coach wanted us to do more running. Our coach believed that technically we weren't the most gifted, but we could be the fittest, and and he was right. Like, we won a lot of games because we just we were fit. We were fit young men, and we really did a lot of running in football training. And I decided one day, I was like, I'm not going to run anymore. And I was the captain of the football team as well. And actually, there was a big falling out, and our teacher cancelled our football year because I decided not to run as the football captain. And I said I was not really enjoying running, and so I didn't enjoy long distance. I did not enjoy long distance. I got to early 20s. I did 40-minute runs in the gym. I never ran outside.
40 or 14?
40, yeah. 40-minute runs.
That's a long time on the treadmill, mate.
Yeah, so I mean, playing football, the stat is playing football, you continuously run for about 40 to 60 minutes, because obviously there's some walking in there. So you're not sprinting all the time, you're not running all the time. So I wanted to keep up my fitness for football. So I always just used to just do 40 minutes, 3 times a week, every time I went to the gym. I was really interested in the gym. I liked going to the gym early 20s, and just got really, really fit and strong. And then one day it was raining, and all the treadmills were being used in the gym. And I was like, I need to do my 40 minutes. And I didn't have time in the rest of my week. So I ran outside in the rain. And I don't know. So some of you watching this might know, but like, as African parents are always like, don't run outside in the rain, otherwise you get a cold. Have you heard about that?
No, but I can imagine one saying
they don't like you running outside. Like my mother's always like, don't run outside in the rain, you'll get a cold. So that's always kind of like was the thing. I didn't run outside in the rain, but anyway, went out for this ran in the rain, and I was hooked. I thought that was amazing. Yeah, that was one of the best experiences I've had doing exercise. And it coincided with the time in my life where exercise was really useful for me. Yeah, it was nice. It was an outlet. I really needed it. So I started running outside even more. And then I was working in a mobile phone store, O2, and somebody said to me, do you run? I said, I run. Like, what, do you want to race me now? I was like, and he said, you should come to this run group. And I said, I'm not sure. I wasn't really a big kind of community or social runner. Got you. Because I didn't know that existed.
It's also a very odd thing for someone to ask you whilst you're at work. You're like, no thanks. Do you want to buy the iPhone or not?
Yeah. It's like, here's your iPhone. I'll see you later. But I turned up to a run. It was Run Dem Crew, Charlie Dark. No, it wasn't actually. It was Run Dem Crew West, and it was Corey Wharton Malcolm, who now works for Apple. And this was in 2012. I turned up to a run every Monday for a year.
Wow.
For a year, yeah.
Olympic year.
Yeah, it was really impactful for me. And then they started doing track sessions on a Thursday. That was about 2014, 15. It became Track Mafia, and then it just evolved, and my journey has evolved from there. The consistency in my journey has been marathons. I've been doing marathons since 2013. I did London. That was my first one.
Wow.
Did London for a ballot. I actually got a ballot place, which is unheard of. And after that, I decided that I always wanted to do marathons, and we're now, probably about 16. I actually don't know the number. I need to do the math.
Because you said it's like 16, 17. 16 or 17 marathons.
16 or 17, yeah.
Mate, I've done London. That is a lot of running.
I've done London 3 times. I've done London 4 times. I've done New York, Chicago, Boston. I have done...
Wait, have you completed the set?
No, I've got to do Tokyo. So if you don't know, there's a world majors, 6 world majors. So you've got to do Berlin, which I've done, London, which I've done, New York, which I've done, Boston, which I've done, Chicago. Yeah. You've got to do Tokyo. So Tokyo.
When are you going to Tokyo?
I may do Tokyo next year, but I have this this goal to be in the top 100 marathon runners in London.
Amazing.
The city I was brought up in and raised in, I think. So to be in the top 100, you have to run a marathon in 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Okay. And are you close to that?
So, no. My last marathon was 2 hours, 45 minutes, which it didn't correlate with my half marathon time. So my half marathon time, maybe about 4 weeks before that, was 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay. 1 hour and 15 minutes is 5 minutes 40 per mile. Yeah. Over 13 miles. If you correlate that to a marathon, you should be in around between 2:20 2:28, 2:30.
I love how runners talk about time.
Yeah.
Especially marathon runners. Like my background is sprinting.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of athletics. And it's so interesting to hear marathon runners be like 2:13, 5:40 pace per mile. I'm just like talking about the cadence, the elevation, like you guys get super specific.
Well, you say you guys. I'm not that much of a fan of time. I think
you're not a numbers guy.
No, I'm kind of more of a fan of like the experience, the visceral, like the kind of there's something ethereal about running. Like it's something like out of body. I say to somebody, when you run, if you have given what you can and you get something out of it, you get that endorphin rush, you get the noradrenaline, you get the adrenaline, you feel a certain type of way, and that impacts you and the way you think and your family and your friends and your colleagues and the way you work. And actually, when you running is the fuel to make you realize anything is possible. I recently went to LA. We were talking about going on trips, and I've been reading Steve Jobs' like memoirs, and he says in LA you get a sense of feeling like anything is possible, but I think also you get a sense of feeling like anything is possible when you run, because to get yourself from one place to another, traveling over the ground, and all it is just you, maybe a drink of water and some calories. There's something impactful about that.
Big time. And it's for me, I mean, again, I suppose I'm sort of biased because I've literally been running as long as I can remember, but like you feel alive when you're running. It feels like your body's doing what it was made to do. You know, you feel like and I love the fact that there's no barrier, like there's no friction between that. I was playing tennis last night to get my tennis racket, I had to change the grip, I had to, there's all these bits and bobs you have to do, whereas you can just get up and run. And I think that sort of frictionless, or that lack of friction between thinking it and doing it is something really special and unique compared to other sports.
I would disagree slightly, because in the modern age, I think, the pair of running shoes are quite expensive. How much did it cost for you to
mean,
run?
for the average runner, I think they just have like some Nike running shoes. I doubt the average runners.
I still think there's some barriers.
I had on running shoes.
Yeah,
but that's because I was sold by some random advert. But
I think we want to say that there's no barriers, and I think in the grand scheme of things, if you are just running on a casual basis for your mental health and well-being, cool, there's no barriers. But if you want to run world marathons or do things like that, I think there are quite a few barriers. I think that's one thing that I would say frustrates me, because I think that the person who starts running and then maybe they enjoy it even more and then they want to take it further, I think that they sometimes are not getting the access to the sport,
for sure.
And socioeconomically, like the amount of time you need to do a long run takes you maybe 2 hours, and then that's another 3 hours to actually recover, and then you've got to do all these runs during the week. If you're working really long hours, it can be quite challenging to actually fit all your running in.
Sure.
So
if you've got a family.
If you've got a family, the social, you got a family, knows the family support, and you can't afford a babysitter, and there are a lot of challenges. But also, I think running is going through a renaissance, and I think there's a big push with obviously the amount of people and the change of demographic of people who are running. You just completed a marathon. Let's just actually like everybody out there.
Hey there, just want to say thank you for listening or for watching this podcast. We have a great desire to grow this podcast, and one of the ways we're going to do that is if you listening follow, or if you are watching, you subscribe to the podcast. The faster it grows, the more guests we can get, but also the better the podcast gets. So please, just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or the follow button. Back to the episode.
Just complete a marathon.
Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think.
Yeah, you know why I rate that? Because you, as you said, you're a 100-meter sprinter, and that's for you to do something that you've not really done before, and to push yourself and you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah. Oh, it was very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I hate sucking at things.
Yeah.
And God, did I suck. And, I didn't prep properly. I think it's meant to take 16 weeks or 18 weeks, whatever they said. I did it in like 8. I got sick. There's all these kind of non-prep things. And I think as a sprinter, prep is everything. When I used to sprint like properly, seriously, I would only be on the start line if I feel like I've done the prep. And obviously, you know, there's a well-known phrase in sprinting, which is you win or lose in training. Really, you know, once you've executed, you've ran that race 100 times. You know exactly what you need to do. When you get onto the track, you just have to execute. You're not really racing. You're not going there trying new things out. You've only got 10 seconds, so you're there literally executing what you've rehearsed over and over again. And so compare that to the marathon, where I'm there at the start line. I'm just like, I have no clue how this is going to go. I'm there looking around like, whoa, it was very difficult. To your point, though, before we talk about my shocking marathon experience, about diversity, one of the things I actually did follow, because I'm a loser, following the London Marathon, you know, when it finished, I went on their website to check out the stats in terms of how many women took part, how many kind of the different age categories and stuff. I was really quite shocked.
What did you find?
Mainly by the age range, if I'm honest, before we get into race and stuff like that. But like, I thought there'd be lots of 20-year-olds doing marathons.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot. The highest number is like the 30-something, like, or the 40. Basically, people between 30 and 50.
Yeah.
And mainly 40 and like the kind of 59. That was the biggest quintile in terms of people who took part. And I thought, that's so fascinating. I really thought a lot of young people would be up for it. But it seems like a sport you do sort of in your kind of late 30s, kind of entering 40s. That seems to be where people run marathons. And I don't know why I thought at 40 you're like done, as it were.
I think between 30 and 40 you have that thing of like trying to take control of your health again. I think that's a big thing, because obviously time is precious at that time. You probably have a family, bills, work, your career's taking off. So I think that's one of the big things between 30 and 40. I think that's probably why people do engage in it a little bit more. I think with the younger generation, there's an identity crisis with running. So the younger generation will want to probably feel like they can see themselves in something. And I think if we're not having lots and lots of people who are giving them that kind of example, and I think, you know, you need to have role models that are attainable, role models who are closer to you. I think that's a big thing. And then also just structure as well. I think we can improve how runs happen, how races happen, who gets access to races. I think infrastructure is a good.
That's an interesting one. This one I don't have the numbers for, but I do remember just a straw poll, or like just from like personal experience. When I was at the start and I looked around, I didn't see a lot of blacks. I didn't see.
I didn't see one. I didn't see one person.
Am I the only one? And then,
I didn't see one person.
A guy tapped me on my shoulder. I forgot his name. I think his name's Joel. I want to say his name is. Who I sort of knew from social media. And he was like, "Oh, hey," and I was like, "Oh, hey, brother." You know, but I did think, you know, why aren't I suppose all the black runners are elite. maybe I'm the only non-elite one at the back. But I was thinking, where's everyone?
Yeah, when I go into the warm up, everyone's always like, "Are you elite?" I'm like, "God, this again."
Like, off Manny, up to the front.
Yeah, literally. No, I think there's a big challenge there. We need to. For me, I think we need to be aware that running is a tool for your health and well-being. It's a tool for your life. It's not just about getting the fastest time. I specifically know why I want to run top 100, because I think it just creates that presence of, okay, yeah, we're not elite, but also there's an element of like doing it proficiently, and doing it well. I know that people won't like to admit it, but they want to be able to do something or see somebody doing something when they can do it well. So having that as a goal hopefully can allow other people to feel like they can do it and they can do it well too. I think we don't have enough at a sub-elite level, at a grassroots level, enough people who are saying, actually, it's attainable. You can have a career and you can do this.
This is it.
And also, I've just been listening to a podcast by Professor David Williams, who's a Harvard professor, and he's a leading professor who measures the impact of racism in the wider world, and for the black community, there's a big challenge around how we are experiencing the world and stress within the world. And if you think running a marathon is already stressful, it's really stressful. So if you already have a stressful life, you're already under a lot of stress, you're 4 times more likely to have a disciplinary, you're 4 times more likely to be sacked. Just the presence of being around other people who feel maybe sometimes you might be too angry, or, you know, if you're in a presence where people are defending or worried about your presence, you're already in a heightened state of discrimination, experiencing discrimination on a micro level, on a day-to-day. And he talks about this in his podcast in the King's Fund. So Professor David Williams and the King's Fund, it's a really great podcast. So I think that can be quite impactful to your ability to undertake something that's going to be increase your stress levels. We have a high risk of cardiovascular disease just from some of the discrimination that is going on. And he's measured this. So it's not just me stating it and saying this is something that's happening. He's a Harvard law professor, a Harvard sociologist and public health professor who has measured this because he felt it was really important.
That is so interesting. I've never really considered that, you know.
So this is more than running for me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say. It's not just about like putting on some shoes and like, I love working with Nike. Thank you for all the support you give me. But also there's an element where I have had experiences in my life with my family and I see it on a day-to-day. We need to engage in our health as the black community, but also wider community. We know that globally, you know, cardiovascular disease, obesity, all these things are you know, they're increasing. We're all more at risk. So this is more than just, okay, let's like cover some miles. Let's do it, have some fun for sure. But also let's deep dive into why we're doing it. Let's be intentional and let's enjoy it for sure. Let's have some fun, but we do have a goal to make sure we're all as healthy as possible, because that impacts all of us, you know. I think I totally hear what you're saying, and I think it's one of the reasons I'm happy to have you on here, right, to talk about health and to really kind of champion that, because in our community, but really everyone needs to take health way more seriously. COVID showed us anything, it's that. The marathon question I find fascinating as well, because I think as you get older, so especially if you have a background in competitive sport, it's often hard to just play sports if there's no sort of goal or no sort of focus. Like I've never understood people who just go to the gym. I've never liked the gym. I just find it a bit random. You know, just kind of, as you said, put yourself under stress. I'm already stressed with work. Why am I here like struggling to lift a bar? So I don't get it, because some people just go to the gym and they just go and it's part of their sort of meditation perhaps. But for someone like me, I need a goal. I need something to be training towards. I need to see a date on the calendar that I'm like, okay, cool. Get your act in order for that date. And I suppose that's why a marathon was really healthy for me, because it was, okay, it's on the 23rd of April. That's when it's happening. You've got to work backwards. You've got a training plan. Let's go, sort of thing. And it was really helpful for that, right? But then there's this issue of when I finished, I was like, what now? So of course, I've already booked another half marathon in July that I'm training for now. Nice. Yeah, I'm going to try I'm trying to get to New York in November, but we'll see what happens with that. But the question I want to ask you, as someone who's done it 17 times, is should everyone do a marathon? Do you think it's something people listening to me right now should? And I know some people might be tempted to switch off. Don't switch off. Is a marathon something everyone should do? I would ask the question before somebody said that is what's the, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to do a marathon? That's probably what would be the big thing. I think you can talk about doing a marathon and it's amazing. It's a great experience. It's a very like affirming experience because you travel that distance, 26.2 miles. 26.2 miles is the same for everybody. I always tell people that, but you have to sacrifice, and you have less time to do other things. But yeah, if you want to experience something that gives you another element to your life, it gives you another facet, a thirst for life, and a great experience, ethereal experience. I mean, that's what I would say. In life, you can craft your mind, you can craft your body, and you can craft like your spiritual presence and awareness. So you got to decide which one you're crafting. Because I think if you craft one of those at any point in your life, you tend to be happy. Yeah. So when you're talking about just going to the gym, there are people crafting their body. That's probably why they look in the mirror and they're looking at the results, because they're crafting their body. You're probably someone more who likes to craft your mind, just looking at your socials and the way you speak. So everybody has a I think they have something they're working
Yeah.
on. And you see people who talk about their faith and going to church and being really happy about, this Sunday we're going to, to worship. And I think everybody has something they're crafting at different points in their life. So that's probably what I would say. But for sure, run a marathon.
The thing that's so unique to me about marathons, again, I guess I'm somewhat lucky because I play lots of different sports and I think they're all good for different things. So I often speak about, because table tennis is a sport I played at the highest level, kind of internationally and stuff like that. And with table tennis, pressure is the interesting thing about table tennis, because if you lose your mind for 3 minutes, the game's over. Yeah, you've lost the match, sort of thing. And so it's about execution, it's about precision, whatever. Marathons. And athletics, like I said, sprinting's about execution, whatever, intensity, controlled aggression, whatever. Marathons take you to some dark places. Yeah. Like, I literally ran out of things to think about, which is so wild, right? Because basically it took me 5 hours, right? It took me a long time. I walked half of it, to be fair. Yeah. But I got to a stage where I was running, right? This is the first ever marathon I'm running, and I'm like, I actually have nothing to think about anymore. Like, I never thought it would happen. You see how, like, it felt like, see when you scroll on Instagram, you think it just goes on forever. I felt like I got to the end. I was like, oh, it's run out. Because I was running. I think it was when we got to like the Cutty Sark, which wasn't even that far in. And I was like, I've run out of things to think about. So I started looking at random people in the audience, just like, and then I'm like, oh, I can't do this. Then I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do this. And then I'm like, no, I definitely cannot do this. Then I was like, oh, I can.
That's hilarious.
And I'm just going back and forth in my mind. I'm stopping. I'm smiling, but I'm in pain. There's periods where I look like I'm in pain, but I'm actually enjoying it. It was just a mess of emotions. And when I got my pictures back, it was so crazy because all the pictures, I look like I'm experiencing a different emotion. There's pictures where I'm like that. There's pictures where I'm like this. It's just all over the place. Now, someone like you who's much better at me than marathons, do you go through the same up and down emotions, or is it more kind of guided, a bit more focused? Because what do I have to look
It's
forward
definitely
to?
a lot less. Yeah, you just anybody watching out there, like, you don't have that all the time. You don't have the waves. I've been there. Okay,
good.
I've been there.
So I'm not crazy.
Yeah, New York last year, I was having those waves because New York last year was the hottest New York marathon, and it was a challenge. Just the temperature, humidity, it was really, really difficult. So after a while, you can settle your mind. And there's this theory that I'm working through at the moment and trying to support some of the people I work with. So I coach runners and support people who are injured. And there's this theory around the beginner's mind where you just approach everything brand new. And that's similarly to what I probably approach every mile. Although London, I know the course. I know it like the back of my hand. I've done it 4 times. But even in Canary Wharf, I just approached it as new. I was like,
that's the worst part, by the way.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Part is just like, bruh,
it's really quiet.
There's no supporters. It's like they just left for the day.
Yeah, it's I kind of call it no man's land. It's one of those. Yeah. So I think you need to just keep approaching life and challenges and running like the beginner's mind. So everything starts new. It's afresh. You don't have any preconceived perceptions of it's going to be hard, it's going to be easy. You just approach it and experience it as fresh and new, and that's super important, I think, personally. And you go through waves in your first few marathons, but after a while you kind of know what's going to happen. You're gonna feel a little bit of maybe fatigue. You have to have your gels, you have to have your hydrating.
I didn't have that.
Well,
the gel
waves
thing.
were probably your nutrition. Yeah,
but the thing that I just find the gel thing so weird. Like, I still find it hard to consume whilst running.
It's
I feel like I have to stop and be like, and then like carry on again. But the whole gel thing, I never got into it. I remember at the start, the guy who tapped me on my shoulder was like, he had this pouch of gels, and he was like, "You got your gels?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Okay, if you got any water," I was like, "No." I just showed up to run.
That's the beginner's mind. I like that.
Literally,
I like that.
Now, whilst I was running, I definitely stumbled a few times on the kind of side road thing. Just be like, "Give me a gel," because I needed something. But I'm like, as you said that, I kind of got excited at the prospect of like getting better. How do you, because I talk about this with friends all the time, the process of mastery, of getting good at something, you know, how's that been for you, kind of starting out a beginner, so to speak, and getting good? How would you describe that experience for yourself?
After COVID and lockdown, I actually think that getting back into marathons was probably one of the hardest things I've done for a long time, because I wasn't used to working in high intensity with my clients and then also training. And I think that took about 18 months to get back into that routine. So mastery, I think, is all about failing, and people don't like to hear that. And failing is good. Failing is like you're refining. It's like having a prototype, and then you go back and then you do it in a different way. But failing's hard in the running community and in modern life because of social media. So you don't fail kind of on your own anymore. It's almost you fail with an audience, and that can be really challenging for people. So if you're watching at home, you're doing a race and you've got your goal in mind, I think sometimes once you get to a certain point, sometimes it's good to put it out there, because I think if you put it out there, you're affirming that you want to do this. But sometimes it can be good to just state that you're going to enjoy the experience, and that can be really powerful, just to say, I'm going to go and enjoy this, and this is what I'm going to do, and that's it, really. Rather than trying to, put a lot of pressure on yourself. But mastery, and running mastery specifically, is a trial and error, and it's being good to yourself, and it's not trying to do 100% every day. I think it's about compound. Compounding is the most underrated thing that we don't utilize, especially in fitness and in running.
It's funny, as you're saying that, it's reminding me of, again, that running thing I used to do with Coach Bennett, who would be like, this is about running, but it's also not about running. Because there's so many applications for life, right? This whole failing thing. You are so right in the culture we live in. Failure is this sort of death sentence almost, where folks feel like, I cannot, if I fail, it's final, like failure is final. And you're like, well, the only way you can get better at something is to stumble, get back up, try again, stumble, so on and so forth. And I actually had this when it came to posting my time, because in my mind, I really should be running sub 4 hours. Like, I really should be. On a good day, I mean, I've ran 40K in training before, and it was sub 4 hours. So I was like, oh, well, it's just 2 more K. That should be fine. So when I got that, so in my head, I'm like, sub 4 hours. So I remember seeing the 4 hour person. I was like, I'll just stick with them. I'll be fine. And then as I started getting all these emotions and going back and forth, and my legs stopped working, and I got the time at the end, it was like, oh my God, this is very far away from the 4 hours I thought I was going to run. And the question was, do I post kind of my time, which I'm very sort of open, but I actually thought about this, like, should I post my time? It's kind of embarrassing. I should be faster than this. But it's like, if I post that time, then that's my first marathon time. That kind of like, it's almost like the bedrock, and then I can start building on top of that. So what I'm doing is showing people the start of a journey, which is fine. But again, there's this kind of mentality, I think, sometimes with us on social media, which is, I've got to disappear into the wilderness, get super great, then come out and tell everyone I'm great. Whereas building publicly and showing people you're growing publicly, telling a story, it's a lost art form. Folks are really scared. And I know this is randomly very into social media, but I think in a sense, it speaks to why some of the younger guys that I know, like my little brother's age, don't post on social media at all. They just feel like until they're rich with like lots of money in a nice house, they just doesn't share anything. And you go, why?
I think there's also a conversation to be had about the value of black men within society. That's my kind of conversation also. And in terms of what does a black man within society, how are they valued? Are they valued as a rapper or a sports star? Apart from that, do we value them in a different way? And I think that's one thing that is quite important for us to start to think about and talk about. I think we need to think about our doctors and our physiotherapists and our our strategic professors and our consultants, our engineers and architects and who all these different people. I mean, one of my good friends is a surveyor. One of my good friends, he's got a clothing label called Labrum, and FODS, big shout out to FODS. And it's just, I think how we value ourselves as black men is super, super important.
Yeah.
And knowing that because you're doing this profession, you could be somebody who really changes the way people look at certain things within that industry.
Yeah.
And talk about it and be proud about it. But it's definitely a big challenge I find from my experience of working in the communities. And I've got a run club, and we have black men who come to the run club, and that's something that I'm like, what story are we telling? What are we portraying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's
just breaking away from those sort of almost like social perceptions and cages sometimes on who should be. I ask some people, shifting gears a bit, questions they would have for you as a physiotherapist, as a Nike running. I still can't say Nike. I'm sorry. I know I don't work for you. They don't pay me yet, maybe. But as a Nike running coach, that you get about running, and I know you do this quite a bit. I told you I just discovered the running channel.
Yeah.
I saw lots of your content on there. Obviously on your own socials, you make content as well about running, answering people's questions. You know, and obviously you're a content creator as well as all the other things you do. So some questions for you, quick fire questions.
Go.
I wish we had some sort of jingle. We don't have that. We don't have the budget yet.
next time.
For now, should heavier people run? This is a question I've got before. Heavier people, bigger people, should they run? Because they some people think, okay, I have to lose weight first.
Anyone can run.
Then I should run.
Anyone can run. You just have to prepare for running. Create the environment to run. That's what I say to everybody.
And how do they do that if they're a bit worried that, is it bad
like
for my knees?
It's just like everybody else.
Hey there, just want to say thank you for listening or for watching this podcast. We have a great desire to grow this podcast, and one of the ways we're going to do that is if you listening follow, or if you are watching, you subscribe to the podcast. The faster it grows, the more guests we can get, but also the better the podcast gets. So please, just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or the follow button. Back to the episode.
Your calf muscles, they produce about 60% of your force vertically. Make sure they're nice and strong. Your thigh muscles are really good for supporting and protecting your knees. Make sure they're nice and strong, so you can use like the knee extension machine in the gym. Making sure you're doing things on one leg or isolating, because running is a sport that utilizes unilateral movement, so movement on one leg, but also doing things where you're using and pushing heavy weight, so heavy back squats, heavy deadlifts, all those kind of things are super important. And be really progressive, really progressive, no matter who you are. If you haven't been running, you have to just be progressive with how you run.
Don't just go in hot, progress and build up.
Yeah, you start with there's in the Nike Running Club app, there's a start running plan. That's with Coach Dora, my colleague, my Ugandan sister, who's a Nike running coach too. So you can just really start simple, and don't be afraid about missing runs or not being able to complete the whole program. Programs are made and structured to be missed. They're made to miss about 80%. It's fine if you miss 80. You must try and achieve 80% of it, so you can miss 20%. But don't try and force yourself to do everything. You want to force yourself to get to the line as healthy as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a video I've seen online before. You're famous on this video. You have 2.9 million views last time I checked.
Yeah.
You know the video I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I love how you know your stats.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
you're not a numbers guy, so it doesn't really matter. What should people do before they start running? There's a debate about this. Some people just get up and just run. Some people know they should stretch, but just kind of do this, and then they're ready to go. But what should you be doing?
It depends on the person. You should do some sort of gentle movement to get started. If you are very new to the sport, yes, you can do some strength or some movement to try and increase the recruitment and contraction of your muscles, especially if you have any challenges with recruiting your muscles and you're not strong at the moment, or you haven't built up strength. So you can, if you haven't built up strength, doing some sort of strength work or strength sequence before you start running. If you are running on a regular basis, I do just advocate do some gentle movements, some leg swings, start off really gentle and slowly, and get going, because we do know that warm-ups are a preparation. They prepare you for your sport. We don't know about specific injury reduction data. It's very kind of skewed and not aligned, because we need a warm up to be specifically the same for every single person, but also we need every person to be the same. So, you know, if you get 4 hours sleep and I get 6 hours sleep, and I do the warm up and you do the warm up, I may have had more sleep and maybe in fresher kind of
condition,
place and condition, and that run might be a lot better for me. So
okay, this is a key one. I want to run 5k 5,000 kilometers in 20 minutes. What do I need to do?
You need to increase the volume of your running. So when people try and run 5k in a certain time, they tend to try and just do really hard interval workouts, and they're useful. But if you increase your volume of your running, that's really, really good for you, because it just stiffens your bones and your muscles and your tendons, just gets everything a little bit more robust. The other thing I would do is hill repeats. Very, very good session. I would also do some 400 meter repeats. Start between 6 and 8 and build up to 12 or 14. And the other thing, really good session is 5 by 1 kilometer with a 60-second recovery. So working on that speed that you want to achieve. So whatever the target is, whoever is watching at home, get your target pace for your 5k and you run that over 1 kilometer 5 times with 60 seconds recovery.
Wow, this is great. I feel like we've got to have a whole session just asking you questions to get your brain fire in.
I'm happy to do that. Maybe we'll do that on the next time.
For sure. But I really love the fact that, as you said, like, it's more than running to you. I think it's always great to find somebody who has found a channel or tool to almost be their platform for just kind of sharing what they think about the world and trying to rearrange the world and change it in some capacity. And I love that. Yeah, for you, it's not just one leg in front of the other, you know, just like the enjoyment of the thing. It's also a conduit for something else. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, I think we're in the world, we all have gifts. We all have something that we can contribute. And I think if we can utilize that and take it out and not hold on to it, take it out and share it with everybody, I think that's super important. So that's my big aim.
This has been great. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. We've got to do this again with more time.
Yes, let's do it. Listen, part 2. Let's go.
All right.